All right, tonight, the New York Times facing wide condemnation. Look at this. After publishing a beyond disturbing anti-Semitic cartoon, President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu in their international print edition. This was last Thursday. Now, in a weak note of apology, Saturday. They waited till Saturday. Meanwhile, everybody saw this for what it was immediately. The paper blamed, quote, one editor working without any supervision or adequate oversight. And then just this weekend, after more widespread condemnation, well, an anti-Semitic cartoon appeared in the international edition of the paper, also depicting, again, this is in the past. When was this? Back in, I believe, May. Now Alan Dershowitz is writing a column for The Hill, says, quote, one of the weapons of hate against Jews deployed by Nazi Germany were cartoons and caricatures that depicted Jews as subhuman animals, often as dogs or spiders. And even worse is the media's effort to lay blame on President Trump for Saturday's tragedy, what happened at the synagogue in Southern California. How do you blame Trump when the guy wrote a manifesto that he hates Trump, hates Israel, hates Jews? Take a look.
He's provocative. He gives dog whistles constantly to these people. Take responsibility for your actions, Mr. President. You are the culprit.
The whole tenor, the whole spirit of his politics gives these people what they see as a kind of permission.
We have a president who not only will not acknowledge that we have an epidemic of white nationalist terror after New Zealand, he said just a few people, he's providing the mood music for it.
This president has emboldened neo-Nazis and white nationalists in this country, and I think it's time to say that.
White nationalists say he has inspired them to take a far more public and aggressive stance in Trump's America.
Now we know about the suspect in a pure act of evil revealed in his manifesto. Again, he hated Jewish people, the state of Israel, and all these people blaming Trump. This guy hated Trump. We're continuing to pray, by the way, for the people of the synagogue, their community as well, and the brave woman that stepped in front of a bullet to protect their rabbi. Joining us now, a reaction media reporter for The Hill, also a co-host of a co-anchor on WOR Radio in New York, and a yes, exactly, Joe Concha, along with human rights attorney Brooke Goldstein. Dershowitz is right. All you got to do is Google Nazi Germany cartoons, and they all pop up. This caricature. When Mohammed Morsi became the leader of Egypt after the Arab Spring initially, former head of Muslim Brotherhood, I kept saying, this guy once said Jews are descendants of apes and pigs. Obama is giving them cash and weaponry. And thankfully, El-Sisi took over. How do you read this?
I think what is so pathetic about the New York Times cartoon is that they're trying to have it both ways. On the one hand, you have everyone in the liberal media who's saying Trump is inspiring this neo-Nazi movement. And then you also have the same media publishing anti-Semitic cartoons showing that Trump is a blind Jew being led by a Netanyahu dog. We'll get it, straight. Either he's a neo-Nazi or he's pro-Israel. Either he's fomenting anti-Semitism or he's the best friend the Jews ever had.
There's never been a more pro-Israeli president than Trump, as evidenced by the embassy recognizing the Golan Heights as Israeli territory.
Right. Totally indisputable. And what I find so incredibly offensive is that people are using this terrible tragedy against Jews praying and turning it into a partisan issue. Anti-Semitism is not a partisan issue, and we have to resist politicizing it at every angle, whether it's fascism, neo-Nazism, Islamism, communism. It is a global epidemic. It has risen to the level of a global emergency.
By the way, the New York Times just responded to the second cartoon that we're talking about in the print edition of the New York Times last Thursday. Clearly, it was anti-Semitic, indefensible. We apologize for the publication. While we don't think this cartoon falls into that category, for now we've decided to suspend the future publication of syndicated cartoons. They don't even want to. How do you look at this? This was, again, they're running this stuff.
This isn't a blog that's being run out of somebody's basement, right? This is the paper of record that has plenty of resources to make sure that these things don't get out into the public domain. And I keep hearing that they've apologized. I don't see anything, Sean, in there that's an apology to President Trump, that's an apology directly to the Prime Minister of Israel. And look, this whole thing around blaming President Trump for the synagogue shooting, the media needs to look at the way they're dividing the country. Morning Consult poll last year, 64% of voters say the press is helping to divide the country, including 8 in 10 Republicans and even a majority of Democrats. Bad things happen under different kinds of presidents.
This is the same media that lied to the American people for over 2 years, peddling bizarre conspiracy after conspiracy, breathlessly, hysterically reporting things that were not true.
It wasn't reporting.
Look at what they did to Nicholas Sandmann, a 16-year-old kid. They didn't make one phone call to see if it was true. And they went days. By the way, Lynn Wood is going to destroy these media outlets. This kid's going to be a billionaire by the time this is done.
With the money that he's suing for, certainly. But bad things happen under presidents, Republican and Democrat. The Boston bombing, Sandy Hook, Ferguson, Baltimore riots under Obama, Virginia Tech under Bush, Oklahoma City and Columbine under Clinton. And now we're trying to connect a dot back to this president when a bad thing happens? No, I'm sorry. Social media fuels this stuff far more than anybody who's sitting in the Oval Office, Sean.
I think the bigger point here also is that you have the extreme right and the extreme left, and now the mainstream media converge on one thing, and that's Jew hatred and anti-Semitism. And if there's anything we've learned from the rise of the Nazis in Germany, is that's how it starts, with the cartoons, with the laws.
Look at, there was an article in one of the European newspapers. Jews are leaving Europe because of the rise of anti-Semitism. Look, nobody here would condemn by name Congresswoman Omar for her virulent anti-Semitic statements.
Right, they're so quick to blame Trump, but they won't call out rising anti-Semitism in the Democratic Party.
There's your friends in the media that you cover.
They're making excuses for Ilhan Omar.
So
and our friends in the media were Alan Dershowitz, who wrote this for The Hill today.
That was a
tremendous
powerful piece
column.
today. That was.
He's more passionate about this subject than anything. That I know.
Honestly, you're standing apart in what you do, and great work by you as well. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Sad. We got to keep our eye on this. All right, when we come back, Kellyanne Conway in a feud with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. Well, she will explain what that's all about and her side straight ahead.